Chapter 1, Talking with an Ancient Muse. I became a complete, manic nuisance to everyone after that, because now that I had fallen in love with the sound of my own voice, I never shut up. When Mara and I were traveling with Mom and Dad, I would be in the back, behind my mom who was in the passenger seat, and I would read aloud every single license plate, billboard, and store sign that I saw. Look at that license plate. It's 81 JPLM. That's unusual. See, 8 sounds like the word 8, and 1 sounds like 1. So, it's like, you ate one of what? Well, the answer is in the rest of the letters. J could stand for just even though it sounds like Jay, which is a name and a type of bird, but I don't think you eat them, and PLM could mean plum. So, if we arrange that plate it seems to read, I just ate one plum. My parents nodded absent-mindedly while Mara made a face at me like she was throwing up. Oh, and look at that store sign over there. Now, that's really interesting. I cried out. This sort of thing went on and on and on. Looking back, I am amazed that they didn't stop and hand me over to the first person on the street they saw. Here, take her. She's broken. See what you can do with her. But see, my eyes had been opened. I could speak, and it turned out I loved words. I still don't know to this day though, just how much my Lisp and early language arts troubles contributed to my love of words. But, life is strange that way, you know, the ways things sometimes work out for the better after starting off so terribly. I mean, I never would have met Karen if I didn't have that Lisp. I became a voracious reader, reading adult novels by 5 years of age. I read science fiction, like Heinlein and Asimov, Clarke, Sagan and Hogan. I read young teen stories too, like Nancy Drew mysteries, and even 3 Investigators' Tales. I read everything I could on history, like that of Western civilization, and of the Orient. I became fascinated with travelers like Marco Polo and Jacques Cartier, who mapped the Gulf of St. Lawrence and the shores of the St. Lawrence River, and whom also just happened to claim Canada for the French. I read the Bible, the Vedas, all of the Upanishads, the Book of Mormon, the Quran, and more. I was so hungry for reading that I felt I was constantly starving. By the 2nd grade, I began writing short stories. They were between 12 to 30 pages in handwritten length, and were usually mystery stories or archaeologist/adventurer stories. I had subconsciously been studying the structures of stories by all that reading I had been doing, and so, one day I just sat down and felt a pull to write something myself. I loved it so much that I never stopped. In the 3rd grade, something bizarre, magical, and life-changing happened to me. Now, I hadn't read much poetry at this point, just a little bit of Emily Dickinson. And there was one poem of hers that I fell in love with, and it went like this. Exhilaration is the breeze that lifts us from the ground and leaves us in another place. Whose statement is not found, returns us not, but after time we soberly descend. A little newer for the term upon enchanted ground. I thought about that poem a lot. It seemed like the exhilaration of anything could lift us from our regular places of standing and walking, and mysteriously transport us someplace where we would gain a vision of life as deep, meaningful, and magical. Then, it would return us to the same ground, but with new insight, thus making the old ground suddenly seem enchanted. I felt a lot like that when writing prose, but had never fully experienced this feeling before. I was walking by my desk one day and I saw the desktop and chair, this ground, this place where I had written so many stories and adventures. But now, the desk seemed to shine, the chair shone, the bookcase shone, and it all blinded me so much so that I had to turn away. I almost turned and ran, but then I remembered Emily's words, lifts us from the ground and leaves us in another place, returns us not, but after time. So, I fought to make my way back to my desk, with my hands out as feelers. When my hands touched down upon the writing surface, I heard, deep inside my soul, write. I managed to sit down, but I closed my eyes and asked myself, what should I write? I just finished a short story yesterday and I am not sure what I will write next. The voice inside me spoke again and said, just let go, lift with me from the ground. So, I let myself go blank. I thought not of any story or idea. I just let the pen in my hand become a part of me. I looked down at the paper and now the shining was gone. There was simply this beautiful blue and red-lined notebook paper. The geometry of it was quite amazing, and it was waiting to be filled by me. Archaic words suddenly appeared and I saw page after page pile up on my desk until it was a stack 2 feet high. All of it was to be writing in my hand. I pulled the top page, and as I tried to look directly at the words, they disappeared, but, out of the corner of my eye I saw they were poems. I was to write poetry. The mission was now crystal clear in my mind. Yet, I had never even thought of doing that before. I shook my head and there was just the single page again. The pen felt ominous, weighty in my hand as I understood its power. With reverence, I felt a responsibility to take all that I had learned about words and to connect them with my thoughts, feelings, and viewpoints of the world. Poetry, a fine art form of the highest order, dating back to at least the 18th century BC Sumerian epic of Gilgamesh. While others have it easier in helping someone to feel something deeply, such as, by putting out songs or films with music, sounds/words, acting, and special effects, poetry has to rely on just words, and it is often read in silence. And yet, while no movie makes a person cry in 5 seconds, one line from a poem can. This is why it is a fine art. Only the strongest, most intelligent and most gifted can be a poet. And now, my heart and mind were pulling me towards poetry. I wondered if I could do it, so I moved the pen to lightly touch the paper. I shook a little. I had become so competent in language arts that I wondered what would happen if I failed here at writing a poem. Could I recover from the self-esteem blow? But whispers were all over my intuition that kept saying, "Do it, write, Kavindra, write." So, I let my mind go blank again. And then, a few minutes later, from somewhere inside me, another voice spoke, but a different one from before. It sounded ghostly, like it was coming in clips and I was hearing only partial words that sparked my imagination. I began to feel exhilarated by their ideas. I heard words, salver, king, penbleed. And then, it came. A flexible salver for the king. Will he accept such a mysterious thing? No fruits or meats. But nutrition he still needs, a poet's words, the offering, certainly not what others normally bring. To satiate his belly he has seeds, to heal his mind, it must penbleed. I finished it in seconds, the voice vanished, and the light engulfed me entirely. Something called destiny spoke, and I stood up and backed slowly out of the room, and into the protection of one who called herself the Muse. Meanwhile, in the 4th grade, I won the California State Championship Spelling Bee, and by the 5th grade, I was no longer required to take language arts anymore. So, when English lessons started, I left class again, only this time I was sent to tutor other kids. I was tested at this time, and they determined I was reading and writing at a senior college level. I loved teaching other kids how to read and write. I made up my own flashcards just like Karen had, only I didn't have nearly the talent she had when it came to drawing. But, they were pretty good, and seeing her technique work on another student, watching the learning happen from the other side, that was an amazing feeling. Back on the home front, I didn't write another poem for a few months. I think I was scared of the intensity of the whole experience. But, one day, with dictionary in hand, I looked up. Inspiration. Now, I could tell right away just by looking at the construction of the word, that inspiration was the polar opposite of expiration. Piration, as I knew, had to do with breath. Expiration meant to be out of breath, permanently. That's what to expire means, to be out of breath, to end, or to terminate. So, did inspiration mean to be infused with breath, to be given breath? I was stunned at what I read, immediate influence of a god, inhaling, breathing in, to inspire, inflame, blow into, to breathe in the spirit. So, the breath the artist breathes in to be inspired is not about the breath that passes in and out of the lungs. It's a more spiritual meaning. I sat with that for a minute, then took my encyclopedia off my bookshelf and read about muses. I was amazed to find out that the word was everywhere. Museums are called that because they are places where inspiration seeks the artist, and they house artistic works created with the help of muses. Music is called that because muses inspire music. Even the word amuse means the spirit of a muse has made me joyful. Muses have existed for centuries. Rome had its 9 muses, some said there were only 3, and Greece had multiple muses. Muses were considered to be the source of knowledge, poetry, song lyrics, and myths. There were muses for epic poetry, like Calliope, sacred poetry, like Polyhymnia, the inspiring nymphs of spring, the Volva of Norse mythology, and the Apsaras, water spirits, in India. Even magpie birds have been considered as muses. It turned out that some authors, and especially poets, invoke muses at the beginning of writing a piece to sing through them with inspiration. The poet is considered the mouthpiece and the muse is the one whom is speaking. Dante Alighieri, in Canto 2 of the Inferno, wrote surprised face. Muses, O high genius, aid me now. O memory that engraved the things I saw, here shall your worth be manifest to all. I pondered that line, O memory that engraved the things I saw. A little further into the article, and I read that the 3 primary muses of Rome were called practice, memory, and song. So, as it turned out, there were muses for love, anger, justice, beauty, and much, much more. I wondered, if I study the poem I wrote, might I be able to tell whom was speaking through me? Which muse was after my hand, my mind, my talent? Which muse just sang through me?